Hi, I'm Garm One, and this is Midgardia's Cool Crowdfunding Show. I'm here today with Shane Thayer, also known as Logar the Barbarian from the Wobblies and Wizards podcast. How's it going?
It's going well. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. So, you're here to tell us about your fundraiser for starting up a hobby print shop and co-op. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I guess I have to rewind a little bit. We're starting a little cooperative. The cooperative is not just a print shop, but the print shop is also a part of that. um we're doing things like fulfillment and other stuff. Some of the folks that live here locally, or actually I say some, I should probably say another fellow here in my game group that lives locally, and I have been messing around with various machines and printers and stuff like that, learning and trying to get things going. We have a basic little setup here so we're able to print pretty nice full color zines now, but our limitation is kind of that size, the zines. As I said, I was going to rewind. I think I told someone recently that I had this I buy lotto tickets, right? Like I buy the Powerball, and I justify it by saying it's less than a movie ticket, and I spend an entire week fantasizing about what they're going to do with it. And in all those fantasies for the last 20 years, it's been having a little worker run co-op, sort of like print shop, making little books, because I'm kind of I really like books. like I love books. I love print. It's a thing I'm into. I like game books. I like philosophy books, history books, fiction. I'm fascinated with just the entirety of them. And I figured, you know what? I'm probably not going to win the Powerball. So I decided I would try to start doing that with what little we had. A few people had heard that I was going to put the podcast on pause to focus that time and energy elsewhere. So we've been doing a lot of messing around with print stuff. We'll just say that it's been an interesting rabbit hole to fall down into. And I attempt to make that little print shop co-op dream that I've always had a reality. So that's kind of what we're trying to do. So
Right on, right on. So you're going for like the small press kind of like, limited run zines and that kind of stuff, right?
well, at first we're gonna have to probably do smaller runs. We'd like to be able to do just about anything, but we don't have the equipment to. And honestly, to get to where we are, I will need that Powerball. It looks like. Not really, but like some of the equipment to be able to run off some of those larger, nicer books and the quantities that they would come out in, they can range much more than I have. Don't have that kind of money. In fact, they would range probably far higher than what we asked for on the GoFundMe itself. For a lot of the equipment that we've taken a look at. So we're kind of like, okay, well, if we can do this, then we can purchase this. And we got, the dream is to be able to work our way up to some of that larger stuff and do smaller, well, what we're capable of being able to pull off at this point. So
Yeah, for sure. And it'd be nice to have a print operation for zines and stuff that is like right deep in the TTRPG community.
Yeah, and I'd like to. There's a lot I'd like to do just print wise that I've seen around. I don't think it's here. Some of the zines that I've seen floating around and other things from outside of the tabletop or role playing game community. Just years going to like info shops and places like that have a lot of zines. I've seen some pretty cool creative things, and then the game world is doing really cool creative things with print. So I'd like to. I personally want to get a little, I don't know, artsy with the prints. You could say I enjoy that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, there's a ton of cool stuff you can do there. I mean, not everything's gonna be Mork Borg, but
Yeah.
and like, yeah, I do really admire the like setting out to set up a print shop for the stuff you love, because DIY is punk as fuck. So
Well, and at the end of the day, I'm broke all the time. I don't make that much money, so everything's got to be DIY with me.
me too. I love this show. It makes me no money.
Yeah. If you want to get rich, don't start podcasting.
Yeah, right.
Well,
It worked for like 3 people, and that's it.
yeah. Well, I will say that my podcast, I will have to say, helped me get to a point where I could try to do this. Thanks to what we did have quite a few supporters on Patreon, specifically as well. And we were able to get the equipment that we're starting with the money from the Patreon. So the podcast, Wobblies and Wizards, really helped us. Our supporters and the folks backing us there really helped us a great deal, just to be able to say, okay, we have the basics now. And I'm a little nervous about a little bit of our paper cutter. I don't have a lot of faith in.
And that's an important tool when working with paper.
I don't have a lot of faith in it, but I think that we're probably looking at, like, we've got the GoFundMe going on now, and I don't know what the money will end up going towards at this point. I set it higher than I expected I would hit, and it's already done better than I thought it would do. But one of the big things on that list to purchase has been paper cutters, and some of the more the older ones, the ones that I've worked with in the past, the older pneumatic ones I've seen around town. For a few of them are going for relatively cheap. They're big industrial machines, so the placement of that might be a basement or a garage at the end of the day.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, hey, there's one advantage to economic downturns. A lot of stuff gets sold off for cheap.
Hopefully lots of printing equipment will come our way.
Yeah, here's hoping. You said that you wanted to be a worker-run, worker-owned co-op. Can you tell me a little bit more about that aspect?
Oh, definitely. I joined the IWW. Oh, I don't even know. It's been over a decade now, a decade or more ago since I joined. The IWW is a worker, is a union, is an industrial union for all workers organizing across industry. And they don't do co-ops. That's not their thing. We organize workers within workplaces, so that's a bit different of a thing. But I'm not a fan of being paid just a low wage to get someone else rich. I've done a lot of that, and it hasn't gotten me very many places. I would rather have control of the work that I do and some say in it. And with our ethics, the things that we kind of adhere to, me and the folks that I've been talking to and organizing this with, they all kind of feel the same. So creating something legally, a structure and that's kind of been another rabbit hole that we've been falling down into. I've spent more time trying to research, learn, and write up these business plans and all these other things that I have actually physically doing a thing. But learning how to get that done, we've looked at different options for forming cooperatives legally and stuff like that. One of the things that we were pretty adamant about was folks being on equal playing field, having an equal say, an equal vote, an equal voice, who are involved, and getting paid for what you did, not getting paid for what someone else did, which seems to be the norm right now in our country.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I was gonna ask if the name Wobblies and Wizards was a reference to the Internationale, but
yeah,
we are. There. Yeah,
yeah, we are. I did have this set up. The Wobblies flag would fly in the back, but yeah, we are. I guess you could say we are pretty far left leaning when it comes down to it. Most of us that are involved in this, and that was one thing we were upfront about with the podcast. Is I'm really into Dungeons and Dragons and role playing games. D&D and older editions I'm really into, but I started off with old Doctor Who FOSSA, so like old FOSSA games, Palladium games, Steve Jackson, old GURPS. So I've always been into that kind of stuff. So when I went out to do a podcast about role-playing games, I had seen that often when you listen to folks, things from their worldview can be just the way folks phrase things. You can kind of catch where they're at. And I thought, it'd be interesting to hear a game podcast that's a little more radical on the working class side type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, and it's weird because most TTRPG people are like solidly working class, but
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I am in favor, if I say I have a side in all the conflicts that are going on in the world today, my side is the working class. That's the side I belong on. All the folks of the working class. Equality is a very important thing to us.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I was gonna say I don't really get political on here, but like I definitely do. That's a lie. Yeah. Like not even subconsciously. Sometimes I'm just like, I'm just gonna talk about trains for like 2 minutes in the middle of this interview, whatever.
Yeah, I had a lot of stuff to say about trains this year. I had a lot of ranting and raving to do. I had to do most of it off the internet.
Yeah, I just go straight to Twitter. Like, we need more
I,
trains, but not those ones. Please.
no doubt, no doubt. I definitely agree. Definitely need better. We need better public transit. That's a starter. Out here, it's hard to even find a bus. There's like 3 places that actually get bus service around this area, and it is not where I live.
Yeah, my province used to have intercity bus service and has not for like 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
I live within
And,
sight of train tracks that used to have passenger trains up until the 80s, and yeah, it has not happened in my lifeline. It
and where
sucks.
I'm out here in Ohio, I'm quite a bit away from where the recent derailment occurred that
Yeah, out in East
caused all
Palestine.
that. Yeah, but those trains run straight through here, though. We especially this town is very middle America, right by the steel mill down that way. You get blocked in this little town by trains real quick. There is no way out when the trains are running, and they don't care. They're going to stop and wait for hours sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. Good old Ohio.
It's quite a place. I'll say that.
I've been there a couple of times. The Cleveland Steel Mill is an impressive sight.
Cleveland. Well, I grew up and I'm down here in southern Ohio, closer towards Cincinnati, in one of the outlying what is it called counties. But I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, till I was about 15 years old. So those areas there, I'm not unfamiliar with. It's just been a while since I really spent much time there. I spent quite a few years living in other states as well.
Yeah, yeah. My partner used to live out in Cleveland, so
Mhm.
yeah, I went and visited a couple of times. I saw a lot of people carrying guns, man. Your country's weird. It spooked the
There's a
hell
lot
out
of
of me.
those out here.
Yeah, we're just like driving by a convenience store and there's just like 3 dudes hanging out by a truck with pistols strapped to their belts. I'm like, what?
Yeah, I definitely grew up in a very NRA household in this area. The environment that I was raised in and the person I am now are very different people, you could say.
Yeah, I mean,
But
yeah,
we're also just up the street. I can point out if you came out here and want to take a trip, I can show you where the Socialist Rifle Association spends their time shooting.
right on, right on. Yeah, I mean, like, I am definitely more permissive about like guns rights than a lot of people in my country, but by your country standards, I am an absolute fucking abolitionist. It's yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, the print shop.
So the
So
print shop,
at the print
and
shop.
yeah, I think that ideally, and this is kind of a sidetrack, like one of the things that we really want to focus on is games, but we're not 100% focused on printing just games. A lot of us have other interests as well that are involved in other things we'd like to see come to print. And I know one of the first things that we're going to probably putting out there in print is it's been about 10 years now, but I used to blog quite a bit. And my blog got a fair amount of attention from certain circles, and it was all political, since we're speaking political. But so some of the early things I think that we're going to start printing out are some prints of some of the old updated and revised material from there and other things along that line. So there will be, I've spoken to a few other people who are, well, not as much in writing games, but writing other types of things, philosophy, political, social type issues, even people like comics, fiction. Like, we're very open to what we want to crank out. We want to get cool stuff out there. I think at this point, we're mostly focusing a lot of our printing on like smaller folks who are wanting to get things out that may not have the resources or may not want to be like, hey, I'm going to have to run a Kickstarter type thing, and seeing what we can do to get some of that stuff out. But our 100% plan of how we're approaching that and doing that is not done yet. So nobody, I don't want to put too much out there and disappoint. But that's kind of some of the stuff that we've been working on here lately, is just the numbers plan, the money plan, figuring out where we're getting stuff, figuring out where we're purchasing stuff. One of the big things that's been important to us is making sure things are union made. So when I started looking out for things like what we would be able to help provide people once we put things together, like I managed to find, we have a Wobbly who does screen printing with shirts and stuff like that real well for decades. So all those t-shirts, if we're able to get a hold of shirts for people, would be 100% union made, ethically sourced. There wouldn't be coming from sweatshops from the cheapest country that they could get the most lowest paid labor for. It would be coming from an actual union shop. And same with, I think we've managed to find some union paper as well. So we're trying to avoid unethical type sources. So some of the things may cost a little bit more, like buying the paper that's made by union workers is going to cost a penny more. But I prefer that.
I appreciate that, man. Like, especially with how high costs have been the last few years for production and paper, especially, it's a hard choice for a lot of people.
Yep. So we're not necessarily looking, and maybe that'll be our downfall, that we're not trying to get the cheapest material to work with. One of the biggest, like, if there's an option that I feel is more ethical, especially that is union option, we are tending to gravitate towards those and avoiding the more affordable options, honestly, which are easier to access, but also the workers who are involved in that process don't get paid that great and treated that great, So yeah, we're trying to avoid that.
Yeah, no, totally understandable. So it's a cool project, and I do hope that you succeed.
Well, I feel that I've had a lot of successes in my life. I did a great little podcast. I'm going to do a little print shop, and I would love to have like a great big publishing house, massive, factory like building with huge presses running out thousands of books a day or whatever. Maybe we'll get there. Maybe it'll stay small. We'll have to see as we approach that point.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I mean, if I know people looking to get stuff printed, I will definitely send them your way once this is all set up. So
that would be definitely great. We're definitely going to want to start talking. I've talked to a few people so far, but we're definitely going to talk to a lot of like independent creators, and we are still figuring some of that out. So I will get back to people when we have more. We have a little site, but it's pretty much an empty thing at this point, and I'm sure that a lot of information will end up going up there as we have worked that out.
Yeah, for sure. So where's the money for this GoFundMe campaign going?
Well, we don't know yet, but we do. That's going to depend on where it lands. We've done, like I said earlier, we've done a lot of research on equipment, and a lot of the equipment we really want's like in the like starting off at like 20,000, 100,000, 200,000 and up range. This thing, I thought it was a large amount, but like $10,000 still seems like a lot to me. I don't think I've ever seen $10,000 in a bank account in my life. I don't think I have. In fact, the amount that it's at now is only like 15 or something. I don't think I've seen that much in my bank account since like I got a huge dump of school loans dumped into there when I was in college. So the amount of money there seems like a lot to, but it's not a cheap thing to do. So what we've done is we have been shopping without buying, noting down where things are and what it is we're looking to do. One of the first things we're looking to do with the money is increase the size we can print and expand the types of binding we can do. So those are our first two focuses. So right now we're able to make a little zine size thing and have it bound. And we've got a couple different options of binding that we've been playing with as well. Hopefully those options of binding will translate into other things as we continue to create them and work with them. So what the money is going to be kind of making it so that we can do a little bit more. So picking up a few different types of printers, paper cutters, binding material, binding machines, things like that, whatever we would need. Now, what it's going to actually go to purchase will probably be determined by how much ends up being in there when we stop the GoFundMe thing from running, and we, look at actually purchasing the materials and decide, okay, we have this much, we can work with this, we can get this, and this, and we can do that. So right now it's kind of up in the air on what exactly the money will go to. But I will say that the goal is to increase the variety of things that we can print and the types of binding we can do.
Right on, right on. And yeah, like you said, they'll increase over time as long as things are going well, incremental upgrading.
Yes, yes. Hopefully, I'm looking forward to it. It'll be exciting. I really loved. I have some cool ideas for some larger format print stuff that I'd like to really get in there and mess around with and make happen.
Hell yeah. Well, Shane, it's been a joy to talk to you.
Well, thank you for having me on. It's been good. It's been great. Thank you,
man. And yeah, for those of you watching, there's a link to the GoFundMe below. Go support a hobby like a co-op print shop, run by union loving people. And yeah.
Thank you very much. It's good.
All right, have a good night, everybody.